Last video we were in the sewers talking about special routes, and we're back in the sewers talking about special routes again. But and this was the original map that I had intended to start talking about. But I'm glad that I talked about the plague sewers first, because that special route is like really simple and straightforward. There's hardly could misunderstand it. And this is, even among special routes, this is more special than others. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this was because as I said in the last video, I've made quite a few videos displaying these special routes, but I didn't talk about them. I just went through them, and then I get comments saying, well, instead of doing that part of it, I would just do this part because it makes more sense to me, and so on and so forth. But that kind of defeats the entire purpose of the video, in that it's like, well, yes, of course you can do that, but that isn't part of the special route, and it means that you haven't understood the special route at all, which is, my own fault, because I'm like, well, if you see the special route, it seems like it should be obvious how it works, which is a complete and utter failure on my part and silliness. But that's another topic. Anyway, so the thing about this special route, or special section, maybe we should call it, is unlike most special routes, it's very contained. And it's only a segment of the map. So from that end of that trellis section there, is the beginning. And then, of course, at the top of the landing there is the end of it, where you splat the NPC. And the beginning of this is, as we walk past this barrier here, we'll trigger a train to come. You're like, oh man, that is cool. That is super cool. And then in the video, I run over here and I jump on. Whoops, I missed that. I jump across this. And so to trigger the second train is somewhere around the end of this. And as I said in the last video, I'm in the same situation as any other player. I don't know how these things work, and so I'm like, well, I knew that this there were two trains, but I couldn't get the second one to trigger and kill the NPC up there. So I thought, well, maybe that's because it only comes twice, and if I did this run and jump like this, it didn't trigger the second train. And of course, has zero to do with it. The interesting part about this, the train is on a loop. It goes out to the end and comes back around, and then it gets ready to run again. But if you run fast enough, it like you go through this trigger before it gets back to its starting position. So that's the only reason it doesn't run when I do this jump. But the reason I did this jump wasn't to avoid triggering the train. It was to avoid this person with the shotgun. And we're going to talk some more about that later, hopefully, if I remember. But we go back up here. But we sort of know this must be a trick, because if those NPCs were stationed up there, and we can jump up here and see there's no NPCs up there. If they were up there and the train came, it would splat them automatically without us doing anything. And as we climb up these stairs, actually, the NPCs are triggered to spawn in, and we can see that by approaching the trigger on the stairs while we can see. Of course, if you're climbing the stairs, this happens before you get into a position where you can see that. So we see them. They're spawned in there. And then another thing that happens again is that I run over here, and the first thing I do is I lock this person in place and I kill this NPC. And watching the video, you might think, oh, well, that's part of the process of triggering it trying to run over the NPC, but it's not at all part of the process. It's just an artistic choice in that I discovered that if the train runs over both of these NPCs or two NPCs, the first one it splats in that dramatic fashion, which is really fun and funny. And then something's happening down there we probably need to talk about. But if it runs into two of them, the second one, it just stops dead. And then it stops there for a fraction of a second, and then it splatters the second one. And of course, like I said, that's just an artistic decision that I decided I didn't like the way that looked on video. So I started killing this one, so there's only one, and he splats in that dramatic fashion. But that also does bring up another point in that, I still haven't. So I'll say I made 26 of the videos were of various levels of success. And, of course I completed the map, but then there were some that I, made bad jumps, or I got hung up in combat with the NPC and I didn't want to, or who knows, just some artistic decision that I didn't like, or it took too long, or Ash didn't follow me up one time. Ash, he went up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times. Just some artistic thing I didn't like about it. But anyway, out of those 26, 8 of them, the NPC got splatted by the train. So that gives you some indication of it's even if you do everything right, it isn't like you can just walk up here and you're guaranteed the win button of success, which is what I really, really like about this game. And I talk about complexity, and that's what I like about the complexity of this game, is these types of things where you really, really have to figure out how to make these things happen. And by figure out, I'm like, okay, of course, once I made the video and people were asking me questions, I did at that point look at how the trigger works, so I do understand how it works now, but I still haven't explained it. And that's the same thing with I made a video of Vivi and getting her as a friend as a Nas, and I did explain how to get started, but I didn't explain fully how to go through it, because I really want people to figure that out and experience that for themselves. Because I think what else is the purpose of a game, an RPG like this, except to find those things and explore and discover things like that. So as far as this goes, you're still on your own to figure out how to get the train to splat the NPC. But then when the person asked the question, I did look up the VV so that I actually knew I wasn't telling them the wrong information. And I discovered 2 new things about that VV conversation that I didn't know before. And in that process, I deprived myself of the enjoyment of ever discovering those 2 things for myself. So I kind of don't want to do that for players for a lot of these things. So I think that kind of covers it for the special part of it. The main thing I wanted to say was, that when you're looking for special things, you know, you have to kind of understand what delineates something is special and not special. And in the next video, we're just going to go through a bunch of examples so you can see, like, oh, this is something to look for, and this is something to look for. And these are examples to get you started. Hopefully that will be helpful. And then the other thing I wanted to say, and I said in the last video, is you know, you can watch a video, but until you've tried it for yourself, you might not be able to appreciate what's happening. So I said there's nothing special happening until we get to those trestles. But then on the first day of this, I just was working on this introduction section here. And there isn't anything special happening, but I did spend time. I made 29 videos just working out what I wanted to do. And I wanted to get it under 3 minutes, and so that was kind of tough. If I wanted to do it in 3 minutes and 30 seconds, then I could have done that in, say, like 8 videos, probably, maybe 8 or 10 videos. But to get it under 3 minutes, it adds another level of complexity. So originally, I just come out to this corner, and that brings Ash far enough out that they start shooting at him. But what I discovered is that they would also be hostile to me and Ash, and that then I'd come out here and we'd be fighting together. And then as we broke out into this area, he'd just continue to fight, and that led up to fighting all of these NPCs. So you'll see in the video that what happens is I discovered a way that I could run past all of these NPCs, and they would be hostile to me, but Ash would run past them and he wouldn't become hostile to them. But you see now that he's going to be hostile to all of them. And the reason for that is what I discovered was that if I ran across that corner and crouched like that, they would become hostile on Ash, but not on me. And sometimes when I would come out like this and come to this corner, he'd walk up to here, and then he'd like start backing up in his traditional. And then you're like, oh man, and you mess around. So I discovered that if I come over here and crouch, he'll always come around the corner. Not always, I guess, but in my experience, he always came around the corner and engaged these people. And then at that point, I want to leave him, because if I break his detection, they'll be shooting at me, and Ash, anybody that Ash is in the detection range, when they shoot at him, they hit him enough, he'll become hostile. But if I leave him behind fighting those people, and he's out of the detection range, and even though these people become hostile with me, because he's out of the detection range, he won't automatically become hostile to these people, so I can run past all of these people and save a ton of time. And then because Ash was not hostile, he'll just follow me, and those NPCs will continue to shoot at him. But as long as they don't hit him enough to trigger him to become hostile, then he'll just run up here and come up here directly, and we can bypass all of that and save a ton of time. So those are just some details that maybe wouldn't be apparent from just watching the video, and I thought maybe people would find that interesting. And the reason that he's engaging with all of those people now is that, of course, they're not ever shooting at me, and so they always hit him enough to make him hostile. And like I said, of those 26 videos that I made, sometimes they would hit him enough and he would become hostile. And then I made, I think, 6 or 8 videos where I made the time and I killed the NPC with the train, but I ended up, part of the process was coming back. And then in the coming back, I ended up with a texture issue, that I was looking at a bad texture. So again, that was another artistic decision where I threw all of those videos out. I don't know how many of those there were. And then if you're using OBS, when you start OBS, sometimes it will start in a bad state. You can't switch weapons. So there were a bunch of videos where I just started and the characters glitched and I have to restart. And then there were maybe half a dozen videos where I am running along and I open the console or open the character editor. Of course, those all got trashed as well. So anyway, that's kind of the process and the story behind this. Yeah, she'll just keep on doing his thing there. So next time, it should be the last of the special routes video. And as I said, we're just going to just go in and look at a bunch of special routes and a bunch of the clues and indicators and methods and kind of procedures that maybe will be helpful for getting players started on doing, looking for, being aware of, and finding on their own. Ah, cool. We're all done. You and me, Ash. Now he's doing his walking away thing. All right, so thank you for watching.